We'll call to order the Colerain Township Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Wednesday, April 23rd, 2014. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those not familiar with the board's processes, a brief explanation is in order. A detailed explanation is on the stand next to where the agenda is as you were coming in the entrance. But the sequence of events is as follows. Appeals will be heard first. Other business of the board will be heard following the appeals. You're welcome to stay for the entire meeting, but are not required to do so. All who speak or testify before the board will be sworn in. This may be done either as a group or individually. Anyone addressing the board is requested to use the speaker stand. Each person is asked to give his or her name and address when first testifying. Our meetings are recorded and anyone speaking may be cross-examined by an attorney. All documents presented for each case may be accepted by the board. The chairman will rule whether additional items offered will be accepted or rejected. The person presenting each case may also withdraw a document. Each case heard will be presented first by a staff member, usually the zoning administrator. Once the staff presentation is complete, the appellant will have an opportunity to present their case. Following the appellant's presentation, the chairman will ask for anyone opposed to that appeal to speak. In some instances, time limits may be placed on presentations. Next, the board will motion to close the public portion of the hearing. Then individual board members will begin with their questions. Board members will ask individuals who testified to return to the speaker's podium. Following the board's questions, a motion and a second will be made by the members of the board to either approve or deny the appeal. It is important to note that this vote is called a straw vote. This vote brings forth a resolution at next month's meeting that is the final order of the board. Finally, respect for this process and one another is paramount. Deliberations in each case are taken seriously by this board. Likewise, it is the expectation that respect will be accorded to everyone regardless of any emotion that may be involved. No disruptive behavior will be tolerated. This extends to all who testify as well as members of the audience. Anyone being disruptive will be asked to leave the room. Now I will ask those who are going to testify this evening to stand and raise their right hand. Okay. Do you swear or affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in matters before the Board of Zoning Appeals? Say, I do. Thank you. The first case this evening is case number BZA 2014-02. The application is for variance for a privacy fence. Oh, I'm sorry. My error. Roll call, please.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mr. Bartold?
Here.
Mr. Reininger?
Here.
Mr. Roberto?
Here.
Mr. Martin?
Here.
Thank you. Okay, back to our case. BZA 2014-02. Variance for a privacy fence, and the application is a variance accessory structure. Oh, that's another, and also an application of variance for an accessory structure, treehouse, Article 10.2.3. Location for both these is 2614 Bell Branch Court, Cincinnati. The applicant owner is Christopher Gaines, and if the applicant is here, oh, I'm sorry, we'll do the case staff presentation first. Mr. Mills.
Thank you. As you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, there are two variances to be heard tonight at this address, 2614 Bell Branch. One is for a fence and one is for an accessory structure. And this case has quite a bit of history associated with it. First, I'll introduce you to the site here, and then I'll get into the context. The property is located on Bell Branch Court. The major arterials nearby would be Hamilton Avenue to the east, Pippin Road to the west. We've got Crest to the north, and Houston, I believe, to the south. The property is zoned R6, as is all of the property around it. As for background, this has been a case that I've been working on since maybe the second day that I arrived. There's been a long-standing dispute between the neighbors at 2606 Bell Branch, which is located just to the east, and this property, 2614. The disputants filed a number of zoning and police complaints against each other in September and October of 2012, right about the time that I started. After many contacts with both the owners of 2606 Bell Branch, owned by the Baimishi family, and 2614, owned by Mr. Gaines, I concluded my investigation and issued notices of violation on both properties for all zoning and property maintenance issues on both properties. The main issue between the two disputants revolved around a commercial trailer associated with the applicant's business, which is a DJing business. He uses the trailer to put his DJing equipment into and would store it in his front yard. He had applied in the past to the Board of Zoning Appeals in 2009 for a variance to keep his commercial trailer in his driveway. It was granted in 2009, but it had a number of conditions associated with that approval, and the conditions included a one-year limitation on the variance. So when that variance expired, the applicant, Mr. Gaines, came back to the Board of Zoning Appeals. There was another hearing, and at that time, the variance request was denied. So from the time the BZA application was denied through till 2012, 2013, the commercial trailer continued to be stored in the driveway. So that was sort of the driving factor behind this whole case. That led to my investigation and finally citation or issuance of notices of violation on every issue related to the two properties, because it became sort of a back and forth sort of deal where one would complain about another and the other would complain about the other. And so in order to put that whole matter to rest, I issued notices of violation to all. The Baimishi family has satisfied, the requirements. They corrected their violations, and Mr. Gaines did not. So in June of 2013, we filed a lawsuit for an injunction against Mr. Gaines to request, and to order that commercial trailer not be stored in that property, on that property. The result of the lawsuit was a settlement agreement wherein the applicant, Mr. Gaines, admitted to being in violation of the zoning resolution for the commercial trailer and also for an accessory structure and the fence. So the commercial trailer is now no longer permitted to be stored on the property, with one caveat that's listed in that settlement agreement. So that issue is addressed. The only two issues remaining and required by the settlement agreement were Mr. Gaines had to petition the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance from the fence and the accessory structure. So that's the backstory. This is an image of what we're talking about tonight. This is the fence. This is taken from Keysport, which is here. This is this road up here. So it's taken between these two homes right here. So you can see this is the accessory structure. This is the fence with the finished side facing in. There's another image of the fence. This would be Mr. Gaines' residence. This would be the Baimishi family residence. This is the accessory structure here. And here's another image of the fence here with the finished side in and the accessory structure here. So those are the issues that we're talking about tonight. Findings, staff finds that with or without the variances requested, I believe that the applicant would be able to yield a reasonable return on the property. Without a variance, though, the applicant would not be able to enjoy the beneficial use of the accessory structure that was constructed without a zoning certificate. By that I mean, if without a variance, the structure would have to be taken down. The applicant has reported that neighboring property owners will not permit him on their property, and therefore he is unable to complete the construction of the outward-facing portion of the fence. If this is true, the applicant does in fact face a practical difficulty in compliance with the zoning resolution. Given the unique and particular circumstances of this property, the variances that are requested, I believe, are not substantial in this case. I do believe that the essential character of the neighborhood has been altered by Mr. Gaines' construction of the accessory structure and the fence in contravention to the zoning resolution, but I believe not substantially so. Adjoining property owners have in the past alleged that they suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the construction of the accessory structure and the fence. The alternative to a variance for the accessory structure and fence is the deconstruction and/or redesign and relocation of the accessory structure and the reconstruction of the fence. That is the alternative that the applicant faces. The variance, were it to be granted this evening, would not adversely affect the delivery of government services. And finally, given the context of this case, and by taking into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance is granted, as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the community and the neighborhood and broader community, staff finds that substantial justice would be done by approving these two variances with the following condition: that the accessory structure and fence may not be expanded or altered without the consent of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Thank you.
Is Mr. Gaines here? Would you like to address the board? Yes, please.
First of all, I'd like to give a little bit more, thank you, Jeff, a little more history.
If you would state your name and
yes.
address, please.
Christopher Gaines, 2614 Bell Branch Court, Cincinnati, Ohio. Unfortunately, Susan Roski is not here to speak for or against. She was here for a lot of the back and forth between myself, the Vi Machines. Also, the Vi Machines' brother and brother-in-law also live on the opposite side of me. So
Just for clarification, maybe she explain who Susan is. I believe it's Jeff's predecessor, correct?
Yes, yes. Susan Roski was head of zoning before Jeff took office. Steve is on the other side of me, which is Val's brother. He obviously has problems with the other side of the fence because Val has problems with her side of the fence. I'm sure he'll speak on that as well. The fence was to be constructed as is. The fence that I took down was going back up to create a finished side to the fence, so both sides would be a finished side. When I started to put the old fence back up on the Vi Machine sides, walking down that path that you saw in the picture, straight down the fence line, putting a fence panel up, grabbing another one, doing the same thing. I got about 5 of them up, and Mrs. Vi Machine called the police on me and said I was trespassing. I asked the officer when he got there, what do I do? You're telling me I have to get off of the property because I'm trespassing. Colerain zoning's telling me that I have to put a finished side up. What do I do? The officer looked at the history because the dogs have been called on for barking. Nothing has happened because it's not a nuisance. Music being too loud. Nothing has happened because the music wasn't too loud. Saw the history of the calls, and the calls are more one-sided. We might have called maybe 5 or 10 to their 50 or 75. The officer said, I can't tell you what to do, but right now you need to get off of their property. Now, who's to say next Saturday you come out, you get 5 more panels up before I get called out here again? It might take you 3 or 4 Saturdays to get your fence side back up. At that point, I contacted Susan Roski. We had a meeting here in Colerain with Susan Roski, Officer Jennifer Sharp. I think there was a typo, it wasn't Shannon. Jennifer Sharp, resource officer, both Val and Greg Vi Machine, Gary Pope, myself, and my wife Courtney Gaines. We came to the conclusion that since their fence is installed improperly, and when I say that, it comes out to the front portion of their house, the front corner of their house, which in the handbook it says it can only come out 25% past the rear corner of the house, and the side that attaches to that It's attached to Debbie, which is their neighbor. They attached to that and continued. So it looks like Debbie's fence, but it is not Debbie's fence. That side is backwards. So they said that your fence is wrong, don't worry about it. Your fence is wrong, don't worry about it. Let's squash that. Next, the tree house. They called on the tree house. It's not an auxiliary building. I can't put my lawnmower in it. I can't grill out in it. It's a tree house for my son. It has a fire pole. I have a swing that I haven't put up yet. I have a tire swing that I haven't put up yet. I do construction. I have siding that I got from a job that is in perfect condition that was going to go up on it if I can finish it. I've stopped working on it because there's no point in putting stuff up. There's going to be a handrail on it so that they're safe. I can't do these things or don't want to do these things yet because if you tell me to tear it down, it's kind of pointless. When the Vine Machines called about the treehouse, Susan Roschke stated to them that it is a treehouse. There's no permits for tree houses. And I told her this is where it's going to be. The tree is right there. That's where it's going to be. She said, just give me pictures when it's done. We'll call it good. I have paperwork from that. Colerain Zoning could not find that, but it's from Colerain Zoning. So if you'd like to see that, I can show you that. I'm just at a loss. There's a lot of things wrong with their yard. And like Jeff said, it was a tick for attack. And zoning doesn't want to be in the middle of a tick for attack. We want everybody to get along. But if the calls keep coming in from one person, at a point, I want bygones be bygones. I just want to live in my house, come in and come out. You do the same. You have stuff wrong, acknowledge that. I have some stuff that's wrong. Nobody else is complaining. We were good for 2 years after we came to this meeting, or the meeting with Susan Roschke, the resource officer. For 2 years, there were no calls to the police about the dogs, about the treehouse, about the trailer, because that was part of that package too, that their trailer was wrong. They did fix it to where they put it. My trailer was wrong, but it was done. For 2 years, there was nothing. When Jeff Mills took office, the calls started coming back in. And Jeff would come and say, hey, there's something wrong. Your fence is wrong. We had this situated. Well, there's no paperwork because we can't find the meeting minutes. Susan's gone. I tried to LinkedIn contact her. She sent me back a message. Due to the nature, I cannot say anything to incriminate myself or something to that nature. I just don't know what to do. There's things wrong with their yard. If I have to take my fence down and change it, that's fine. But I was told I could keep it up. If I have to take the tree house down because it's an auxiliary building, that's fine too. But in the same turn, they need to fix their fence. They need to stop parking on their front yard. Their car is parked too close to the property line. It has to be within 3 feet. Or it can't be within 3 feet. It is. They have garbage in their backyard. They have garbage on their back patio. If I'm expected to live by the rules that are set forth, so should they. It's only fair. So with that being said, I think my wife, would you like to say anything?
Mr. Grimes, before you
Do you
leave,
have a
you
question?
said you had a document
Yes.
from the zoning reference to the conversations you had with Ms. Roschke?
Yes, I have that here, and then I also have a letter from Gary Pope. He cannot be here today, attesting to the meeting that we were all in.
Would you like to bring those
Yes.
up? Doesn't reference Susan Roschke. Who's Philip Pope?
Neighbor directly across the street from
Right, thank you. Right. let the record reflect, we received 2 documents from Mr. Grimes. One, a letter from Mr. Pope, and another is a printout of an anonymous complaint. Reference the auxiliary structure. Okay, and is there some, did
Yes.
Grimes want to speak?
Courtney Gaines, 2614 Bell Branch Court.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that we went about this the right way, for the fence and the tree house at least. We called ahead of time and tried to get information on permits or what we needed to do, and we're told, you know, it's fine, it's playground equipment. We had the meeting in 2011 with everyone, and it was settled that the fence would stay how it is. We did not need to replace anything on the other side. And for us to have to come back to it 2 years later is, I mean, it's insane. And I don't understand how the same zoning department makes one decision and then the exact same zoning department comes back and says, no, that decision, I mean, so then in 2 more years, does another decision get made and we have to change it again? I mean, we thought that this was settled. So for us to have to come back to it is, it really feels like we're being personally attacked, not so much by the zoning department. I know that you guys have a job that you have to do. When you get calls or complaints, you have to follow up on them, and that's perfectly fine. It's more so the neighbors, and we thought we had it settled where everyone would just live their life and be peaceful. And it's just like, at what point does someone just say, we've taken care of it, leave it alone? The trailer is a different story, and we got that worked out. But these 2 variances that we're requesting, it's really just us asking, can we just stay with the decision that this exact zoning department has already made? As for anything else, I mean, I guess that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak in favor of these requests for variances? Grimes, please.
The fence that I was going to put back up, the old fence, I had all that. That has now been cut in half and probably at the bottom of Rumpke somewhere. So to replace that fence, it's roughly 300 lineal feet. The cheapest stuff at Home Depot is like $30 for an 8-foot piece. So financially, it's just not feasible. We just had a little girl that just turned 1, along with our 11-year-old that we just got custody today. You can imagine the financial burden that was to get custody. The other thing is the side that the fence was going to go back up. I put the fencing together with finish nails, and on the other side it goes through about 1/4 inch. Didn't think anything of it. I'm going to put another fence panel up. It'll be sandwiched in there, no harm, no foul. Since I can't put that fence up, those nails are still sticking out on both sides because I can't go on there. I'm not going to go to jail for trespassing for hammering down nails. So if I can keep the fence and get permission to go 15, 20 minutes on their property to either cut the nails flush or bend them down, those nails will be out so they're not in harm's way or you know, of putting your hand on them or anything like that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone to speak in opposition to this request for variance? Sir?
My name is Greg Bymashi, and I live at 2606 Bell Branch Court. And actually, I'm not in opposition to granting the variances, but I do have some concerns. There are some pictures I could give you now or after I speak of them.
Just continue your comments.
Yes, sir. As I've read this letter to the BZA, I am the neighbor cited in this appeal. and I find that it has many contradictions and complete fabrications. Mr. Gaines, as our neighbor, has shown us his disregard for the peace and happiness of our little part of this community with a number of disrespectful, inconsiderate behavior. And in fact, he's worked quite hard to create a polarizing, divisive split between many of our neighbors. For the 5 years that he's been at the 2614 property, he has enacted repeated episodes of retaliation for his imagined or perceived attacks, which he actually has in this letter. He feels like he's always being attacked and retaliated against. In fact, when Chris and I spoke a week ago, his last words to me were, if this thing with the township causes me to take down my fence, I'm going to go find the ugliest, crappiest fence I can find, and I'm going to paint it pink. That is the kind of situation we have there. It's unfortunate. But it is my greatest concern and fear that he will not respond favorably to any of these proceedings, so I want to see a peaceful and civil resolution to these issues. Having discussed this with my wife, and in fact my brother-in-law, who owns the property on the other side, our concerns are and Chris mentioned this problem. There's surrounding the entire fence line, he used staples that were too long, so it's peppered with staples sticking out of the fence, about 3/8 of an inch, and I have a picture of that. That is our concern. I personally feel that I just want this to be, as he said, finished and to a peaceful resolution. So really all I want to see is the staples dealt with, because they're a hazard to anyone's pets or children that could make contact with them. He referenced the fact that we have not given him permission to come onto his property. That was because he was trying to put what he calls a rotting and terrible fence back up. And that's why we called the police and said, we do not want you on our property because we do not want to look at this ugly fence. It was shorter than the new fence he had put up and planned to leave. So the only other issues that we have about the fence would be that it is not finished, and again, he is going to claim that we won't let him, but it's only partially stained. We had an incident where Chris claimed we put leaves and mulch right up against, excuse me, I'm nervous, leaves and mulch right up against his fence with the sole purpose of causing it to rot. And when we came home one day, we found that he had thrown everything out into our yard along his fence line, and that's another issue. I'm concerned about the fact that he states that since the facing is on his side, there's 3 inches there we're not allowed to touch on our side of the fence. So clearly we want to resolve that small matter. And lastly, in regards to the fence, he, as a result of that incident, claiming that we were trying to rot out his fence, he came over while we were off at church and nailed a bunch of boards across the bottom so that we couldn't put mulch up against his finished side of the fence. And that's fine. I actually don't have a problem with that solution, except that it's only partially done. And I have pictures of that as well. The whole thing looks uneven. I just want it to look right on my side of the fence. And in terms of, or in regards to the treehouse or accessory structure, we have only one issue with that. And I find it troubling that we've been singled out many a time for calling on these things when we never have. I'd like to see someone show me some kind of record that we've called. We've never called. It's odd. I don't know who else in the neighborhood might have, but Chris likes to point the finger at us, and I'm quite frankly tired of it. The treehouse, again, I'm sorry, I got off track there. The only issue is we've been looking at it for, I think it's 2 years now. unfinished. We're looking at what is called Rex wrap, or some people might know it as Tyvek. And we have a picture of that as well. That, I believe, is the end of my comments. We just want to see things finished. And other than that, we don't have a problem with granting the variances. Conditions stated in the documentation, both, I believe it was the township's conditions. We're concerned about it not saying anything at all about what we finish that treehouse with. You know, something earth tone, you know, easy on the eyes. And again, the finish of the fence. As a 24-year resident of the township, I thank you for your attention to what I expect is probably a very tedious matter. I believe that's the end of my comments. I have pictures.
Mr. Bymashi, if you bring those photographs or pictures up, let the record reflect that we have some additional documentation. Thank you. Is there anyone else to speak either in favor or in opposition to this request for variance? Sir?
Hello, my name is Steve McClellan. I live at 6096 Monastery Drive. I'm the property owner at 2622 Bell Branch, the west side of Mr. Gaines' property. I'd just like to say that before this fence was constructed, Chris made a point to get with me to ask me about the fence beforehand to get my opinion. And I told him that he should build it with the finished side facing out per the code. And he informed me that he's building it, paying for it, and wanted to push the finished side in, so it was nice for him to look at. I still say the outside should be finished, eliminate a safety hazard from the staples, and finish to look decent. I know the code says that the end of the code says it so both sides can be equally finished. And as far as the staples being an issue, they do stick out up to 3/8 of an inch on all three levels of the horizontal supports for the boards. And the property I own, there are two little kids that play in the yard a lot. There is a play set in the back, and they're out there a lot. And anybody coming up against the fence will be harmed by these kids, or anybody cutting grass, weed eating, mulching, or anything of this nature. So like I said, I thought if the fence was finished, it would eliminate that problem, eliminate the two-tone problem, the boards on the bottom, and the whole 9 yards. As far as the accessory structure, I wasn't in any of the meetings with the township for the fence or the accessory structure, and he says in his letter that it was to be to code, and I don't know if it is or not. The BZA says that it's over the required height, but that's fine with me. I too think that should be covered up in a decent manner so it looks fine, and not painted pink or something of that nature. It's been unfinished for a couple years, and I think it's time to just finish it. The location of it for me is not a problem. And I would request or like to ask that these things would be completed in a timely manner, since it took 2 years to move a trailer after a lawsuit was filed. I'd like to see, like I said, be resolved within a decent amount of time, to know that it would get completed. And also, I don't know if you have pictures. I have pictures of the staples and such. Also, if you'd like to see those.
Here to bring them up, we'll enter them into record. Record reflect, Mr. McClellan has also provided pictures of the unfinished side of the fence, illustrating staples or nails and all right.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else to speak either in favor or in opposition? Mr. Bymachine?
I have nothing further to add. I just would like to provide to the board a copy of some notes regarding some of the things that have been put into the record that I do not find to be accurate. I just would like to present those to the board, just so that they're in the record.
There are some documents submitted by Mr. Bymachine, and they will be put into the record. All right. If there is no one else speak either in favor or in opposition, Mr. Grimes?
It's Gaines. May I see those notes and pictures?
Sure.
Just when you get done with them. I'll go ahead and speak. Just to kind of clarify some stuff, Greg and I did speak about the fence the other day. His wife was out taking pictures, so I thought she was at it again. So I went out and took pictures of the stuff that I thought was wrong with their yard. And I explained to him in the mail, or not in the mail, in the news, maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago, maybe a little longer, in Anderson, a neighborly dispute got so out of hand, a neighbor took and painted his fence bright pink. And that's what I told him. I said, this is headed that way. Do you remember this in the news? So not to be misconstrued, I'm going to take and paint my fence pink. I do have chain link fence that if I have to take it down, I'll put the chain link fence up. They're probably not going to like that either because now the dogs can see them. I have pictures of them. We can go back and forth all day of Greg taunting my dogs. And that's one reason why they bark at him, because they know his scent, they know when he's home, they know the sound of his vehicle, and they bark at him. I would love to finish this stuff. Jeff, how long have you been in office or here?
About a year and a half.
Year and a half. So they're saying that it's been about 2 years. 2 years, year and a half. He's been on this since the second day he's arrived here. I have not done any work on either the treehouse or the fence in that time because I feel if I do this work and I come to this, I didn't want to put the stuff up and then have you guys say, well, it looks good, it's going to be torn down. And as earlier as I stated, I have a nice earthly tone siding that I can put up on the treehouse. As far as Steve's there once a month. He goes in, he changes his filter, he collects rent. That's all you see of Steve at that house. Yes, he comes over more to go to the bar machines, Sunday dinners, church, things like that. The other day, when Steve came, probably took pictures of the staples that are sticking out 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. He walked in the backyard as the tenant was standing there, unannounced, just walks in. I looked at her and said, are you allowed to do that?
We're just going to focus on the fence and the accessory structure, not necessarily the
Right.
personalities, the comings and goings of the neighbors.
Yes, sir. And also, if we talked to his tenants, we befriended them. My kids play with their kids. If they ever had a complaint, I told him I cannot come over there because if he saw me, Val saw me, the cops would be called. If they have a complaint with that, to let them know, and I can come over, if I get permission, I can come over and take those staples, cut them off flush, or bend them down so they're not a harm to their 2 little children.
Okay. Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
am I allowed to see the pictures or the notes? Or?
Yeah. Are those pictures of your fence, Mr. Gaines?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Thank you.
There are pictures of the fence and the tree house.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to close the
Sit down.
public portion of the, of this hearing. If you, yeah, just return the pictures to administration. Okay. Is there a motion to close public portion?
So moved.
Motion's been made, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we'll begin with board questions. We'll start with Mr. Roberto.
All right. Mr. Gaines, can you please approach the podium when you get a chance? Thank you. Okay. First, we'll address the fence. Would it be a possibility for you to take the fence and rotate it so that the finished side is on the opposite side? If the parties that are involved would allow you to do so?
Yes, it would, but then it would create the same problem I put the fence up to get away from. I have two dogs. We rescued one dog. The rescue dog pushes against the fence and got out and escapes. They would call the police. They would bark at him, call the police. The way the fence is now, the fence is on this side and the braces are this way. He cannot push on those fence boards because the horizontal boards act like a brace and he can't push through them. The other reason is the second horizontal board, the same dog would jump up, put his hind legs on that middle rung and jump over the fence. So it was creating, or killing two birds with one stone by putting that fence on there. That dog has since escaped. The other fence was supposed to go back up. They actually asked for that other fence to go back up when I started doing it. When I started doing it, got called, came to zoning, had the meeting. So if we put it back up on the other side, the dog will become an issue again and the cops will be called. Where do I go from there? So.
Well, if you put the unfinished side to your side, then you can finish your side at your leisure with whatever you finish with, because then it's going to be on your side.
Right, but
then you're putting the good side to the outside. This is now, just listen to me, because you're going to have to listen to what I'm telling you, because this is how I'm going to vote if you are not listening. If you put the finished side to the outside, then you can fix the inside so that your dog can knock it out at your leisure. And then you eliminate the staples being protruted. They're on your side, so it's your issue. And then it's also the stained or the finished side is to betterment for your neighbors. If you want to put a chain link fence up as replace that fence, that's fine as well, because it's in code. But my opinion is that you need to go ahead and fix the fence, either rotate it so that the finished side is to the opposite side, so that it's within code, and then you've solved that problem if your neighbors will allow you to go on that property. It's not going to cost you any more money.
right,
It's your time.
right. Can I speak on that?
Certainly.
I had enough fence to do that.
But it's here nor there.
Well, it is because it's.
You can't show me any records showing that you had a discussion with Susan. The statement that you had there doesn't show any conversation or dialogue to say that you were given authorization to put the fence against code. So you really don't have any evidence to say the contrary. It's just your word against everybody else's word.
Right.
So
Can
I'm
I
going
ask
upon
Jeff
the
a question?
facts, and the fact says it's against your code right now. If your neighbors will allow you to rotate it, and I'll ask them to come up in a minute and ask them if you can get permission to do so, and then it'll resolve the problem. It will
One
be
of them,
done.
yeah.
That one will be done. And then we can move on to the next thing, and I'll address that one in a minute. But
Can I ask Jeff one question?
certainly.
Did Officer Sharp speak to you when I turned in my paperwork on the meeting that we had with Susan Roschke and tell you what was going on and what was said in that meeting in a summary?
She did come in and say that there was a mediation between you and your neighbors, and the outcome of that mediation, it apparently was a wide-ranging list of things that were addressed in that meeting. But that's a service that our police department provides, which is when there are neighbor disputes, they offer mediation. And
Right, and they were here, she didn't speak anything, or you can't say she didn't speak against or anything like that.
She didn't say
So I
anything.
should have had her here, or,
Well, she didn't say anything about the outcomes.
Yeah, so at this point, we don't have any facts other than what we see today.
Okay.
And it's against the code. So what I'll ask you to do is to sit down right now, and then I'll call up your neighbors, and I ask them if you can get permission to fix the fence so it'll be within code, if you're allowed on their property. And then maybe we can get this part moved on, we can move on to the other structure. So if you can just seat for a second, and then we'll move it. Mr., what was the?
Fire machine.
Mr. Buy Machine?
Yes, sir.
If your neighbor is willing to take the fence and rotate it 180 degrees so the finished side is to your property, would you allow him to go on your property to do so?
Yes, I would, but my position still remains. I don't really want Chris to have to do unnecessary work. I just want it to be finished, you know.
So if he were just to cut off the staples and, I mean, he's going to stain the fence too? Is that the two requirements that meet your?
And clean up the baseboards that he put there to keep us from mulching the fence, up against the fence. But yes, I would most definitely. Any issues we've had with him where we've called the police have only been as a result of problems where he wanted to put the rotting fence back to satisfy what, you know, was being said at that time. Again, he likes to blame us, but I didn't care. I just wanted a nice fence done and done properly.
All right. Thank you. Yeah, the neighbor, okay.
Let's deal with the fence issue first.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just strictly
Okay.
the fence.
So go, Mr. Price.
No questions at this time.
Okay, Mr. Bartle.
Well, just, when you say rotate the fence, would another option be to keep what's there and put more finished panels on the outside and have two finished?
Well, he said that would be a cost that he couldn't do at this point. So that's why I was trying to keep him from incurring a cost. So you just rotate the fence.
For material, you mean?
yeah, for material to put, because I had the fence, was gonna put that fence up, and then was told that I didn't have to, so I cut it up, got it off the property. Like I said, those panels, the cheapest panels are $20, $25 for an 8-foot piece. The chain link, would that be an option to put that on their side? It's a finished side, and then it would not let those staples, it would be sandwiching, so the staples would not be protruding either. That's an idea as well.
Is the existing fence right on the property line?
That's an issue as well with property line. I say property line's here, they say property line's here. Nobody's got a survey. I offered to get a survey and just will go Dutch on it. They don't feel that they should have to pay anything. So the fence, essentially the stuff that I took down, I left the posts. So whoever did it before me, the posts were still in the ground. All I did was take old fence off, put new fence up. So I can't speak on the property line. I tried to get I think zoning has kind of, go 20 feet from the fire hydrant type deal, but I don't know how exact that is.
Okay.
Mr. Martin?
Mr. Gaines, you certainly tonight present a very reasonable approach and appearance. And I think Mr. Mills did an excellent job of giving an objective overview. However, if one spends a little bit of time reading the record belies everything that you've said tonight. Starting in 2009, there was a dispute with the town about the trailer. And we're not talking about the trailer here, but we're talking about giving you an equitable relief, basically. We're trying to respond to your notion that you don't have the money to do this and don't have the money to do that. On the other hand, in order to ask for equitable relief, which is what you're asking for, you really have to have clean hands, and you definitely do not have clean hands. The town fought with you tooth and nail to the point they had to go to court for 4 years. You constantly promised Mr. Mills' predecessor that you would apply for a variance. You never did, until finally they had to push you and prod you into getting a variance for the trailer. You got a 1 year. Frankly, I would not have given you the 1 year, but they gave you a 1 year extension so that you could find someplace to keep your trailer, and then you completely ignored them when they tried yet again to get you to move that trailer. even after they'd given you the 1 year, to the point where the only thing left to do was to go to court. I can't believe that you are here tonight asking us to do you a favor, given everything in this record. The record, it's an awful record. I mean, it's huge. It's bigger than, we have an application tonight for a gasoline station. This is your stuff. I mean, it's ridiculous what's been going on, and you have completely ignored the township at every turn. So consequently, and frankly, your neighbor's being a lot nicer to you than I would be, given, and if the people in the audience read the record, I think that they couldn't understand how nice your neighbor's being by allowing you to leave the fence as is, because there's no way that I can vote for a variance, because that variance stays even after you leave. After you leave that property, that variance stays and that fence stays. And it's not fair. And we're going to approach the accessory building afterwards, but there is no way that you should do anything other than make it right. And that is, as Mr. Roberto suggested, flip it around and make it right. And if it costs you money, I'm sorry, I know you've got kids, but you're not an innocent party. And you have presented yourself tonight as an innocent party. You are by no means an innocent party. And I'm sorry, there's nothing you can tell me that is going to convince me otherwise based upon the record in front of me. Thank you.
Can I say a few words to that?
Sure.
I know you said it's not about the trailer, but you spoke on it and kind of painted a bad picture for anybody who does not know about the trailer. Mm-hmm. The trailer, for the first year, I was going back and forth with zoning because just moving here, not knowing, okay, well, it's not a recreational trailer.
How many times did you get cited between 2009 and 2013? So you didn't know about it?
No, not fully.
How many times did they have to go out to your property?
I'm not sure. It's in the file there.
Yeah, quite a few.
But I complied, got a variance, and the variance that I got is supposed to be for 3 years. It's supposed to be for 3. A variance is for 3 for that issue. They gave me a variance for 1 year on the terms that I didn't park over the sidewalk, that I installed a motion sensor light, and then I installed greenery. Mm-hmm. Those were the stipulations. And then to come back in a year, we'll check those things. So if you didn't put a light in, you're done. If you parked over the sidewalk, you're done. I did all those 3 things and complied. And they still didn't give me the variance. I came back and spent more money and got a variance. And then that was when we had the meeting. And Susan Roski, and I'm kicking myself in the rear end because I did not get it in writing. And I didn't get Susan's signature, I should have came back up with the complaint and said, Susan, can you sign this so I could have proof? Like you said, there's no proof to it. If I could call Jennifer Sharp in here right now, she could attest to it. But I don't have that right now with me.
Mr. Gaines, as Mr. Roberto already said, that the stuff that you said supports your position does not. The material that you submitted to us does not support the position that Jeff's predecessor gave you permission to do any of this.
Right.
Okay.
There's no
but despite what you said, number two, the variance was very clear, 1 year. In fact, it was so clear that they went to court, and the court confirmed it was for 1 year. So this notion that everybody is out to get you and that everybody is saying something and you're remembering it differently, it just doesn't fly. We have to deal with the record. I mean, there's all sorts of hearsay stuff floating around here, but I have to deal with the record. Hopefully the board agrees with me. You have to deal with the record. And based upon the record, there is no way that we should give you this variance. It's clear and simple. What Mr. Roberto said is the solution. Flip the fence.
I wish all 5 of you could come out to our properties and look at both properties.
But when you have a block party, make sure you invite us because it'll be interesting.
Next weekend.
I drove by today.
Did you see the fence?
I saw the fence.
On their property? Did you see the backyard? Did you go to Keysport?
But yours is the one in question right now.
We're not talking.
I know, but that's the problem. I've filed complaints about their
Listen,
stuff.
I'm all about enforcement, as
And
Mr.
nothing's
Mills
been-
will attest. And if there's a problem, then by all means, go for it. But
We'll
we're
do
not
that.
talking about that tonight.
Not tonight, maybe in a month or so, but, okay.
Well, no threats, though.
All right, Mr. Gaines, one more comment if you come back up. I'm going to talk about just the fence. There has been there's 2 possibilities to resolve that. One is obviously reverse the fence. The other which was mentioned by Mr. Bymashi, is to finish the fence, staining both sides. He mentioned, or you did, bending over the staples. I would prefer that they be ground off flush.
It's fine.
And replace or finish off, there's a baseboard of some type.
So one by going around the bottom.
Yeah.
And just to speak on that, it wasn't for the leaves, it was for the dog. The dog would chew at the fence there,
But
but yeah.
it is partially complete. So there's two ways to resolve this. One is to reverse the boards, and the other is to finish the project on the outside or the obverse side. Are you amenable to one or both of those solutions?
I would prefer what Greg suggested. It would be less time, less hassle. But it's up to you guys, I guess, now. I mean, if they'll graciously let me on their property, they can stand there and watch me do whatever they need to. I need to get a electric cord. I have a grinder. I can grind those down, get a couple 1-bys. I can have the things ground down and the 1-bys up by tomorrow. And one day on their side, and possibly Steve's side, if he'll let me on his property. Steve's side doesn't have any 1-bys, so if he wants me to put them up, that's fine. I can start putting them up. I can have that stuff done tomorrow. And then staining it, it's supposed to rain one day this week, so just the next couple nice days I can get the stain up. But I would prefer that way. Like I said, less hassle. If I switch them, I still have to go on their property, so I'd still need permission to go back and forth.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Oh, that was me. Just from a administrative perspective on this, if you go the route of grinding them down and finishing the outside, by finishing I mean staining the outside, which is what we were just talking about, that would require a variance, right? So if you vote for a variance, and you would condition your approval with those conditions, right? And then I would enforce those conditions. Okay, so that's the one thing. If the second option is to put the finished side on the outside, that would not require a variance, right? But it would require a zoning certificate. So Mr. Gaines would come in and make an application for a zoning certificate for a fence, and because the fence would show a finished side out and he would indicate the materials and everything on the zoning certificate, then he wouldn't need a variance, he would need a zoning certificate. Okay, I just want to make that clear. That's.
And Mr. Chairman, that's exactly, I agree with everything he said, and that's why I could not vote for the option of just sawing off or I think the fence needs to be reversed. Otherwise, this variance runs with the property. It doesn't run with the owner.
Well, that was my question. If we were to vote for that variance, if 5 years from now a different neighbor moves in, are they allowed to
Yes.
make another?
Yes, that variance would runs with the land, so it goes.
I mean, a future neighbor could bring up an issue.
Yes, but they could bring it up, but Mr. Gaines or whoever owns that property would be protected from any. Forever.
And if those things are ground off and stained, it'll be a finished side, just with the horizontals on the neighbor side. And then, Jeff, would I need a certificate, even though I already have one?
A zoning certificate. Well, you would need.
I have one for the fence.
Yeah.
It's just it's built incorrectly. So to take that off and just switch it, I'm not.
I would suggest getting a new zoning certificate, just because it will in effect become a new fence. So,
All right,
and it makes it easier for all of us.
All right. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, now we're just dealing with the item of the fence at this point. So I would like a motion to either reverse the fence and bring it into compliance with our code, or to deny the request for variance for it to be built backwards, basically.
I'll move that the variance be denied and that the fence be reinstalled properly, with the condition that it be finished properly and stained.
Is there a time?
30 days.
Okay, we have a motion for the board to reverse the boards of the fence. The finished side is on the outside within a 30-day period. Second on that motion?
Basically, it's a motion to deny Yes,
Deny
Deny the variance.
And then bring it into compliance with the,
with the zoning resolution within 30 days.
in 30 days.
Yes.
I second that motion.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote.
Mr. Price?
And I vote to deny, correct? Aye.
So a yes vote,
Yes.
yes vote denies. Mr. Bartolt?
No.
Mr. Roberto?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Reininger?
All right. So the variance been
Denied.
denied.
So within 30 days, an application needs to be, a zoning certificate needs to be made showing a fence that meets the zoning resolution.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, we're going to deal with the accessory structure. Okay, the accessory structure is proximity to the basic thing is proximity to the property line, right?
In the settlement agreement, Mr. Gaines agreed that the accessory structure stands above the minimum allowable height of 15 feet and/or is located within 5 feet.
Right.
So we don't have a good measurement, but one of those dimensional standards is being violated,
All right,
or both.
okay. Mr. Roberto?
Mr. Gaines, can you please approach the podium? You have stopped working on it because you were potentially going to lose the deal on this. If you were to be granted the variance, how do you plan on finishing the treehouse?
With siding, finish the kids' play stuff attached to treehouse.
And what is the time frame in which you plan on completing that if you were given a variance?
Then the next month or two.
Okay. I have nothing other to ask.
Mr. Price?
No questions, actually.
Bartolt?
No question.
Mr. Martin?
Again, you know, I have difficulty granting the variance based upon the record here. Even if Jeff's predecessor said it was okay to do that, which I find hard to believe. I mean, I can't believe that somebody with her credentials would have said that. There's nothing in the record, and moreover, the case law is clear that the Board of Zoning Appeals is not bound by that. What about the neighbor in the back? Did they have anything to say about this, the one that's overlooking?
They were supposed to be here. They have no issues, either one of them.
And they were notified.
They were notified?
Yes.
Yeah, they were notified, actually came and talked to me and said, you still dealing with this?
Yeah, it hangs over their yard is really the one, they're the
No,
most impacted.
it doesn't hang over their yard. It's within my yard. But no, they don't have an issue
How
with it.
close is it to the back?
I'm not sure. And apparently, we don't have a good measurement.
Nothing you're going to be bound to, but 4 feet, 5 feet, 6 feet?
4 or 5 feet, yes. It's attached to the tree that's 4 or 5 feet from the fence line.
And how tall is it? Guess
It's about 15 feet,
from the ground up.
yes.
Because the one thing you did show us indicated that what you showed them was it was going to be on the ground.
No, that was the complaint, and she was saying it's on the ground and attached to the tree. That's not my complaint.
I understand.
That's the complaint of,
But it doesn't support your other position either. That's, you know,
What
that's what you
position
gave
is
us
that?
to support it.
what position is that?
That Susan had given you permission to do this. You indicated earlier, you gave
Yes.
us a piece of
That-
paper and said this confirms that Susan, we had a meeting about this and that Susan said it was okay.
And,
It does not do that.
The gentleman in the middle suggested that Susan's name's not on it, her signature's
Right.
not on it. But when I talked to Susan repeatedly, I have a stone mailbox in my front yard. I called zoning to see if I'm allowed to put a stone mailbox in there. Just if I need a permit, do I need to put a footer in? What do I need to do? Nothing. I called the post office. Do I need to do anything? Guy said, as long as I can reach my hand out and put the mail in, I don't care. I called on my fire pit. I called the fire department. What do I need to do? I have a nice stone fire pit. What do I need to do? Well, technically, you're not allowed to have a fire pit because it's whatever.
Well,
Put a lid on it.
I understand.
it's
I understand
allowable.
that, but-
So I go above and beyond to make sure that the things that I'm building for my kids to have fun and the neighbors' kids to have fun in, to make sure that these problems aren't going to arise because the
Again,
neighbors call.
I don't want to repeat what I said earlier, but with all due respect, the record doesn't support that assertion, that you've done everything you possibly can to be in compliance with the zoning order.
Right.
But more importantly, and more to the point, a variance, we have to find something unique about the property, something unique about the circumstances, something that justifies us saying, okay, on this particular parcel, it's okay to build a treehouse, whereas on this particular parcel, it's not. And in general, it's not. And there is nothing peculiar about this piece of property that justifies an accessory building that is taller than the 15-foot or not within the 5-foot setback. It's that simple.
But we don't have a good measurement on that. So how can you guys tell me that it's within 5 feet of the property? Where's the property line?
Well, we as the board have to rely upon the staff, and the staff has told us that in their opinion, according to what I have, that it exceeds 15 feet.
You don't have to rely upon me, Mr. Gaines. Mr. Gaines, you, in the settlement agreement, agreed that it stands above maximum allowable height of 15 feet and/or is located within 5 feet of the neighboring lot.
And as a man, face to face and shaking hands on that agreement, we agreed that part of the stuff wouldn't be brought up to here today.
There's never a part of a settlement agreement.
Right, and I didn't get it in writing, didn't get you on recording.
I mean,
no, the settlement, yes. But I asked you, I said, isn't any of this going to be brought up because it's going to look bad that I agreed to it? If that were the case, I wouldn't have agreed to it. But you had my back up against the wall because you're going to say you're going to take $500 a day because of this and this, even though it took so long because we had an agreement with Susan Roski. I didn't feel that there was anything wrong because head of zoning said, you can leave your trailer there because they're leaving their trailer there.
Again, we don't.
I know, it's back and forth and back and forth.
Let's move back to the treehouse thing. Mr. Martin?
I don't have anything else.
A couple of clarifying questions. How is that treehouse anchored?
The treehouse is anchored by 6x6s with 3 piers going into the ground, 32 inches with rebar in it. And it is also attached with lag bolts, 6-inch lag bolts. I think there's 3 or 4 on each side, on this side and the back side into the tree.
So it is attached to the tree?
Yes.
It's a
one
fine
leg.
point. The tree is going to move. How's that structurally going to keep it from, the tree's going to grow dead?
Right. And if it was solely attached to the tree, yes, that will move. But having 3 other anchored points, it's not going to move that much. And if it moves, it's not going to be like an earthquake movement. There is going to be some wind that hits it and it sways a little bit, but not anything that you see it going like that.
Okay. That's my other question. All right. I've got no further questions. Any other questions from the board?
Yeah, I have one.
Sure.
Another future question. If the variance is granted to keep it and then he moves, are they forced to take it down?
no.
And if it just deteriorates, is he forced to keep it up?
Maintenance.
There would be a property maintenance issue at that point. So, so we would investigate a property maintenance complaint for an accessory structure in disrepair.
Okay.
With that being said, I would talk to the property owner and say, hey, this is what you need to do, upkeep. You don't need to do anything to siding unless it falls off, put it back up. It has a shingle roof on it.
Yep.
So it'd be ready for him.
Mr. Roberto has one more question.
I actually have a question for the neighbors. I don't recall if they were in opposition to the treehouse.
Primacy or Mr. McClellan?
I think they both said that they were fine with this.
No, sir. Speaking also for my brother-in-law, we are not in opposition to the treehouse as long as it is finished and it has an attractive appearance.
Or we're being told earth tone, so
Yes, please.
that could be something that we can write into the record if it is approved.
Okay.
So that was my question. Thank you.
I have one. Given the fact that the treehouse is not yet finished, Mr. Gaines, why can't you just adjust the height and the setback? So that you do not need a variance.
You would almost, first of all, we don't know that the height has been set at,
And if
but you would need a crane to hold it so that you can cut the 6x6 post or to lower it. It's almost
To lower the roof? This is for an
essentially
11-year-old, so it's not for Shaquille O'Neal.
right. Essentially, yes, you could.
Okay.
If that's the wishes of zoning, we lower it.
Okay. Well, I'll make a motion based upon the standards that I think the board has to follow in terms of variances, that we deny this variance.
A motion has been made to deny the variance for the accessory structure. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there is a motion on the floor and a second to deny the variance, and a affirmative vote require the dismantling or modification of the house.
Yes, so by denying the variance, what you're requiring is that the structure be less than 15 feet and more than 5 feet away from the property line with a zoning certificate.
That's with a yes.
That's with a yes.
Yes.
Okay. Has it been moved and seconded?
Moved and seconded, so we are ready for a roll call vote. A yes requires a modification of the structure, and a structure stays as is.
Price.
No.
Mr. Bartol.
No.
That was a no. Mr. Roberto.
No.
Mr. Martin.
Yes.
Mr. Reininger.
No. The variance is granted.
No.
We need another motion to grant.
Right. I would make a motion to grant the variance with the stipulation that the height not exceed 15 feet. I can let the 5 feet within the property line go, and that it be finished in a neutral color within, can we say 30 days?
So a zoning certificate would need to be issued. So you would grant a variance. Mr. Gaines would apply for a zoning certificate within 30 days.
Within the 30 days of issuing your certificate?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So that would give him, just to be clear, that would give him another month, because the zoning certificate or the variance certificate will be issued at the May meeting.
Yes,
just to be
so
clear.
he kind of has a preliminary approval at
Yes.
this point.
Right.
To get it finished, you have 2 months.
Right. So it would be the end of June, basically. We need to get a zoning certificate for that structure. Okay. Okay. There's a motion on the floor.
The motion's on the floor to approve the variance.
Mr.
With
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, can I ask Mr. Roberto a question?
Certainly.
Just so that I can understand how to vote here, or how I should vote. Give me your reasoning why a variance is justified here.
Because you're going to create a hardship on something he's already developed. The neighbors are not in opposition to it. We're giving and taking in this particular instance. If he's willing to take it down to 15 feet, 5 feet variance, how many sheds do we have in the neighborhood that are within the 5 feet of our property line? I consider this the same as a shed, so I can give on that.
Again, the law is clear that the hardship can't be self-created. How is this not a self-created hardship?
Actually, for an area variance, the standard utilized is practical difficulties. It's not unnecessary hardship. So you're implementing the wrong standard, I believe, at this point.
No, I don't think so.
Well, according to case law,
Right? Well, read the reasons that why we should give a variance for an area variance.
Well, there's also, I addressed all of those issues in the findings. So one way to handle this would be we approve the motion based on the findings of fact provided by staff. That would be one way to create a record to support this.
But again,
a lesser standard applies to a property owner seeking an area variance as opposed to unnecessary hardship.
You want to read off those standards, though?
The 7 standards from Duncan versus Mitterfield,
Please.
It's the ones that have been addressed in the staff's finding.
Well, for the record, do you want to read them here? And then,
They include but are not limited to, 1, whether the property in question will yield a reasonable return, or whether there can be any beneficial use of the property without the variance. 2, whether the variance is substantial. 3, whether the essential character of the neighborhood would be substantially altered, or whether adjoining properties would suffer a substantial detriment as a result of the variance. 4, whether the variance would adversely affect the delivery of governmental services, i.e. water, sewer, garbage. 5, whether the property owner purchased the property with knowledge of the zoning restriction. 6, whether the property owner's predicament feasibly can be obviated through some method other than a variance. 7, whether the spirit and intent behind the zoning requirement would be observed and substantial justice done by granting the variance.
And I would argue that on each one of those, the solution is simple. If it's more than 15 feet, cut it down. If it's closer than 5 feet, move it in.
And that is your opinion.
Yeah.
So, and the other thing to keep in mind is that
But I
those
just
are,
wanted to address the notion that I wasn't using the standards. I think I was.
You referenced unnecessary hardship, which is not the standard.
practical
Well,
difficulties, but
I can agree to disagree.
the Duncan factors are a balancing test is
Right.
the other thing. So they're not, it's not a necessary and sufficient. Each one isn't necessary and sufficient to grant the variance. You don't have to hit all of them. Each board member weighs those criteria in an effort to make their judgment.
Agreed.
So we do have a motion on the floor, as I am quite sure, to approve variance.
Has it been seconded?
Not yet.
Not
I
yet.
second the motion.
Okay, so the motion's been made, seconded.
And can we just repeat what the motion is, just so we're clear? The motion is to bring it within the 15-foot height requirement and make sure that when it's finished within the 30 days after certificate issued, and that the colors will be neutral. That's what the motion made and seconded.
That's my understanding.
Right.
Okay.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Bartold?
Aye.
Mr. Roberto?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
No.
Mr. Reininger?
Aye. Okay, the next case is BZA 2014-04. It's for variances for the redevelopment of a gas station. Articles /section 8.3.1, and there's quite a number of them. Location is 9760 and 9780 Colerain Avenue. Applicant owner is Gilligan Oil Company. And a staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm excited to present this application this evening. The applicant seeks relief from certain sections of the zoning resolution as outlined in your packets for the redevelopment of the Shell Station on the corner of Springdale Road and Colerain Avenue. So up on the screen right now is the existing condition. The site currently, so we've got Springdale Road running east-westish and Colerain Avenue running north-southish. The site includes two parcels. The northern parcel is, well, at least two parcels. The northern parcel is the current CarQuest. The southern parcel has a gas station canopy and a small convenience store, and it has two seemingly vacant car washes located on the site. So the redevelopment site in total encompasses both of those properties. So we can look at the screen here, and if you can make it out, some of these transfers don't work very well, but we have an existing condition sort of faded into the background, and I've got the proposed project outlined here in black. So the proposed project includes the complete demolition of all structures on the parcel. We have the existing gas canopy, which sits way into the front yard setback on Springdale Road, will be demolished and replaced by a much smaller gas canopy. There will be a convenience store and Dunkin' Donuts located on the north side of the property with a drive-through, and there will be a Popeyes chicken located on the eastern side of the site. Other really important items here. There's currently a billboard on the structure on the site. That billboard will be removed and not replaced. The applicant is proposing streetscape improvements that include elements from our streetscape plan, which you can see built in its built form right now at the southwestern corner of this intersection and extending down across the mall property. I'm referring to the pedestrian scaled streetlights and sort of landscaping amenity on the streetscape. So that will all be included on this job. There will also be the removal of what I believe is two curb cuts, making this a much safer situation for drivers. There's going to be a curb cut removed, and this is actually a change from the packets that you all have, so if I can just have your attention here for a minute. Ohio Department of Transportation required the elimination of the southernmost right in, right out entrance to the property, and that happened, I was made aware of that today. I believe that that's a major improvement on the site design, so I'm in favor of that. As a result of the change here, another change from your packet is that this gas canopy has been scooted down about 6 feet, I believe, shifted to the south, so to speak. Okay, so in order to make this project a reality, the applicants require 7 variances, and I can go through those now. There's a 50-foot front yard setback required in the B2 zoning district in which this project is located. The 50 feet is indicated in your packets, but runs right about where my green dot is. Okay, there's a drive-through canopy attached to the Dunkin' Donuts that extends a very, very small smidgen into that 50-foot setback. I want to, I said less than 3 feet to be as a conservative estimate. The applicant can put a precise number on that. There's a variance required for that impingement on the setback. Okay, the second variance that's required is for wall signage on the western portion of the Dunkin' Donuts GoCo convenience store. There's a sort of an unconventional wall sign, which meets our definition of a wall sign, and that's why they need this variance. But what it is, and you'll remember from your packets, it's the image of a cup of steaming coffee with the letters DD on them. So that's considered a wall sign, but it's certainly not conventional, and I believe not a substantial request. I also believe that it's aesthetically pleasing. The third variance that's required is for setbacks on Springdale Road at the southern end of the proposed canopy. Shoots into the setback by, at this point, I believe it's 13 feet. And if we can look again at the existing condition, currently this canopy that exists is very, very far into that setback. So this is a marked improvement on where we're at right now. And I believe it to not be substantial. The next variance is for another impingement into the front yard setback, and that's for the Popeyes. You can see the current, so the Popeyes goes to here, is proposed to go to here, and the existing car wash sits just a touch south of that. So we are bringing that closer into compliance with the zoning resolution. Another variance is going to be required for wall signage on the southern facade of the Popeyes, and that building is approximately 32 feet wide. It's a very, very narrow building, and wall signage is, as you all recall, is based on linear frontage. So they are limited to 32 square feet of wall signage there, which and they're requesting 45 square feet. I believe that to not be substantial. I also believe that that's in keeping with the architectural character of the building and fits within the framing that the building provides. 3 site-related variances that are needed are related to impervious surface ratio, ISR. The current site, as you can see, is nearly completely paved. This project brings that impervious surface ratio down to 88% with the changes that were made, eliminating this curb cut. It added a couple of percentages of pervious surface. So that impervious surface ratio, I believe, is 88%. The maximum in the B2 district is 75%. But again, we're coming closer to compliance with the zoning resolution. The landscaping is related to, there's a minimum landscaping required in the parking area, which is 15%. In discussions with the applicant, I suggested mitigating that issue with enhanced streetscape landscaping, and with mimicking what's on the southwestern portion of this intersection, in some ways with a stacked stone, sort of hardening this corner edge to create just better urban design and a more attractive site. So attempting to mitigate the lack of landscape parking with increased perimeter, mitigate the decrease in landscape parking area with increased perimeter landscaping. Finally got that out. And then the final issue is related to lighting. I believe the maximum is 2.0 foot candles as an average across the site, and I believe that the applicant is proposing a lighting scheme that averages 2.3 or thereabouts. So with that, here we have on the screen a better image of the proposed landscaping with that very attractive corner, hardening of the edges, the luminaires that are called out in our Colerain Avenue streetscape plan continue to be built out. So with that, I will share with you the staff's findings of fact. Maybe. There it is. There are 20. With or without the variances requested, the applicant would be able to yield a reasonable return on the property. Without a variance, the applicant, oops, I'm reading the wrong one. Hold on. Excuse me. Thank you. Okay, excuse me, let me start over again. The gas station canopy extends less than 5 feet into the Colerain Avenue front yard setback and less than 10 feet into the Springdale Road front yard setback. On both frontages, the required setback is 50 feet. The gas station canopy is significantly deficient in the current gas station canopy is significantly deficient in terms of meeting front yard setbacks. The variance would bring the site closer into compliance with the law and is not substantial. The drive-through canopy on the west side of the Dunkin' Donuts GoCo station building extends into the setback by less than 3 feet. The variance is not substantial. The Popeyes restaurant building extends into the front yard setback. The existing vacant car wash that this building would replace has a greater front yard deficiency and the variance would bring the site closer into compliance with the law. The maximum impervious surface ratio permitted in the B2 General Business District is 75%. The applicant proposes an impervious surface ratio of 80%, or 88%, excuse me. The existing ISR on the property is greater than 90%. The variance would bring the site closer into compliance with the law. The applicant proposes to install landscaping in the parking area in an amount less than 15%. Given the existing condition, the deviation from the parking area landscaping requirement is not substantial. The applicant proposes wall signage in excess of 50 square feet on the west facade of the Dunkin' Donuts GoCo store. The signage includes the image of a cup of coffee, which meets our definition of a sign but is not conventional. The unique aspects of this sign and on this site results in an attractive facade and is not substantial. The applicant proposes 45 square feet of wall signage on the southern facade of the Popeyes restaurant building, exceeding the 32 square feet permitted. The building is exceptionally narrow, and in this particular case and on this particular site, the variance is not substantial and aligns with the architectural features of the building. The applicant proposes an outdoor lighting scheme with an average illumination of 2.3 foot candles exceeding the maximum illumination of 2.0 foot candles. This variance is not significant. The intersection of Colerain and Springdale is one of the most important intersections in our township. Indeed, it is main and main in our township. Colerain Township will be investing over $2 million in the burial of utilities at this intersection to improve the aesthetics and enhance the image of the township. The applicant proposes to remove the existing billboard located at the site, thereby decreasing the visual clutter and improving the aesthetics of the area. The applicant proposes a robust streetscape landscaping plan, improving the aesthetics of the intersection. The applicant proposes to demolish two vacant buildings, formerly car washes. The applicant proposes to demolish the building currently occupied by CarQuest. This building has been in violation of the property maintenance resolution of the township since at least November 21st, 2013, when a notice of violation was issued for peeling paint and oxidation stains on the building's exterior. The redevelopment, when taken as a whole, is a needed and welcome improvement at this important intersection. It is unclear whether the owner of the property would be able to yield a reasonable return without the variances. The essential character of the area would be substantially altered for the better as a result of the issuances of these variances. Adjoining property owners would not suffer a detriment as a result of granting of the variances. In fact, they likely would realize benefits accruing from the redevelopment and investment in the property. Many of the variances requested could be obviated by some other means, but the resulting product would be less desirable than the redevelopment proposed. And finally, given the location of this property and by taking into consideration the benefit to the applicant if the variance is granted, as weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and broader community, staff finds that substantial justice would be done by approving these variances with the following conditions, and there are 4. Number 1, that the existing billboard shall be removed and not replaced. Number 2, that the streetscape lighting fixtures and landscaping shall be installed as described in the proposed site plan. Number 3, that the project shall in all other ways comply with the zoning resolution. Number 4, that the project shall in all ways comply with the proposed site plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mills. Is the applicant here?
Hi, Pat Gilligan, Gilligan Oil Company, Baldwin 200, 625 Eden Park Drive, Cincinnati. Thank you for your time. Thanks for the summary. I'm going to try not to repeat much of the information. Everything that Jeff said was factual, and I agree with. This is a location that I've owned since 2006. We are in contract with the property to the north, and so we currently operate a number of Dunkin' Donuts and Popeyes and GoCo Shell stations in the city and Southwest Ohio and Central Ohio. The Popeyes building, we're required by Popeyes to build a freestander. It's one of their current requirements. So we actually pulled this one off of what otherwise would have been attached to the building. And as such, we ended up having to get the circulation for the drive-through, and so the buildings is situated where it is on the property relative to the variance needed because of that drive-through stacking. On the total building square feet today is somewhere around 15,000. That's canopy. 2 car wash buildings. One's closed. It was there and vacant or vacated when we bought it. The other one is operating, and unfortunately it appears vacated. But those will be demolished as part of the project. The new buildings do only encompass around 9,500 square feet in total relative to the 15,000 that's there today. As Jeff noted, we also have a 30-foot Shell pole sign that's at the front corner that is currently grandfathered in, I suppose, as well. That'll be coming down as part of this development with a sign that'll be in compliance with the code. I think it's 15 feet max height and the appropriate setbacks. That's kind of it relative to the development. I know you guys are going to have questions, so I'll probably defer to answering those as things come up.
Thank you. Anyone else speak for this request? Okay. Gentlemen? Somebody. Okay.
Matt Teetsort, 8448 Linus Drive. I just want to speak. I'm looking forward to this project as a resident of Township. Let's see.
Excuse me, Matt. You
Sorry.
came in late, didn't you?
No, I did not.
Were you sworn in?
I was here sworn in. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see.
Go ahead, please continue.
Okay. Yeah. No, everything looks good to me, and the change actually looks even better. As far as, because traffic seemed to concern, but it looks good as far as entering and exiting. And I'd just like to remind the board that to keep in mind that, the code, I know this comes up a lot, the code is restrictive, and I think that the code needs to be restrictive, but the code also allows for variances for, various reasons, and I think that, that comes into play various aspects. We want businesses to come to the township, and we want them to stay and prosper and thrive and continue. And a lot of the, if the code, if we have a code that says 30-foot signs are permitted, for example, then businesses can just apply and not have to come to the appeals process and because of the 30-foot sign. But if we say, and I'm going to go on the extreme side, the code says a 2-foot sign, then they have to ask for permission, okay? And then they'll come to you. and for whatever situation it may be due to elevation or what have you, or a corner property, or whatever the case may be, whatever is next to it, that they need a 6-foot sign or a 10-foot sign, whatever the case may be. And I know a lot of my friends and through social media and followers and so forth are excited to see Dunkin' Donuts return. I had one friend already comment, let the coffee wars begin, Panera, White Castle, Dunkin' Donuts. Did have one question, are vehicles going to be able to be permitted to make a, what's the word, left turn onto Springdale Road?
Is that a right in, right out, or on the Springdale Road entrance? Full curb cut, so you could turn left onto Springdale Road there. Got it.
Okay. All right, because it's not always a good idea, but
Right.
residents still decide to try and do that.
I know.
And then, and on, you know, same thing when vehicles would turn right onto Springdale, then make a left into the property on Springdale, as opposed to just continuing northbound on Colerain and turning right into the property. They decide to turn right on Springdale and then turn left, which causes a backup, but that's just a poor decision making, and I don't really have an answer for that. I know, I don't why people do that, but you know, outside of a sign saying no left turn into, but the same person that makes that poor decision is going to ignore that no left turn sign anyways. That's all I have to say.
One question. Spell your last name for me, please.
Tietsort, Tietsort. I did sign in on the sheet. Isn't it on there?
There may be another sign-in sheet. Let me go
Okay,
check.
fine, thank you.
Okay. All right.
Gentlemen?
Good evening. My name is Frank Birkenauer. I'm the Assistant Administrator and Director of Development for Colerain Township, and I live at 6722 Kern Drive, Colerain Township, Ohio, 45247. I've been Director of Development for 17 years here in Colerain Township, and there's the Leslie Pools building, which is adjacent to the CarQuest, and we've tried for years to try to get some redevelopment to occur there. I think that these structures, Leslie Pools, they have a lease, and it's marginal at best, I think, and I believe the CarQuest is in the same kind of state as the Leslie Pools. These are deteriorating structures. They don't seem to be marketable in their current state. They've really gone into further deterioration over the years. The parcels are too small in terms of, I mean, we've tried to get Chick-fil-A, Jack in the Box, all these different people to try to look at these areas, and it just really hasn't been attractive on its own. In addition, we have the BP station that just was leveled at Galbraith and Colerain. And I think with the modern gas stations the way they are, trying to get an operator down south, I realize that they need to expand in their footprint, and that the current parcels that many of these gas stations that were built in the 60s or 70s are on just are not able to be utilized in the modern coffee and fast food environment that we have. I was also a member of the Colerain Corridor Task Force. They've encouraged the consolidation of parcels to improve access. I think this does this definitely. It makes it a safer area where people are pulling out than it is currently. I do see people zipping in and out of CarQuest, and I think that this will help out this situation. This corner, according to our streetscape plan, is key, and Mr. Mills said it, to the revitalization of the area. We saw what the redoing of the corner where the former BP ProCare was did to the general area. I think that this is another catalyst that will help out the revitalization of Colerain Avenue. I did want to correct you, Jeff. It's $1 million for the bearing of utilities. I would get in a lot of trouble if I doubled my budget.
Gotcha.
So just for the record, it's the budget for bearing of utilities like $900,000. And that will make a huge difference. And then ODOT, one of the reasons why they changed their plan is because of some changes by ODOT in like 15 or 16. they'll be redoing this intersection and putting these large black mast arms, which will prevent all those guide wires and visual clutter that you see now. And then bringing this sign down from 30 feet down, I think, is great. And the decorative lights, the gas lights as well, I just see a triple bottom line benefit to everyone involved. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Anyone else speak to the project? Sir?
Gary Middleton, 3565 Rainier Drive. I have lived in Colerain since 1969, like a dinosaur or whatever. I have watched Northgate Mall being built from my living room. I have seen buildings come, go. I am for this. My only issue is when you're coming out of Springdale, you know, I have seen it on the 5 o'clock, you know, traffic, it's backed up and people get real irritated. People ask the manager, you know, can we use your restroom? He has a sign up saying no restroom available. That's going to hinder people coming in out of town, going on vacation, you know, stop in, you know, their little kids got to go to the bathroom and they're turned down. It's like, okay, what do we do? So, you know, when I heard Dunkin' Donuts is coming back, I like Dunkin' Donuts. Matt said the coffee wars begun. He forgot to bring in Starbucks. You know, I had White Castle's coffee. I'm not crazy about it. You know, there's McDonald's, Starbucks, White Castle's. I am looking. I hope that, you know, when have you guys been out to Tri-County up there where what is it, Jake Sweeney Chevrolet, and saw theirs? I saw that for the first time. I saw it being demolished, being, you know, going out there, and I saw that what it looks like. I like it, and you know, Colerain is booming left and right. Like I said, I lived here since '69. I've seen places come and go. Like was Mr. Birkenhauer said that BP was, you know, demolished, and I hope somebody comes in there, either Thornton's or whoever else. You know, I've lived here, like I said, '69. I moved out in '99, moved to Minnesota. I would like to see a Holiday gas station come in. I don't know if that would be possible, but, you know, whatever happens, you know, I follow on Facebook of what's going on, and I'm excited for this, that Dunkin' Donuts is coming with Popeyes and a whole brand new Shell gas station. I like that. You know, my only other issue are those dividers, you know, those cement dividers. I have seen people, somehow, this was over time that people would literally drive on them. They would get stuck, and they'd have to call on the police and have to call the fire department in or a tow truck.
Let's focus on the Shell station development.
Okay. I like the new development. I've been out to the one in Tri-County. I like the layout of it. And I've seen like pictures of it, like, you know, an artist concept. I like what it looks like. And I'm excited. And I can't wait for, you know, Dunkin' Donuts to come back. I love Dunkin' Donuts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the Shell station? I will ask for a motion to close public input.
Make the motion.
I second it. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Okay, questions, Mr. Roberto.
On the one signage that's in question, which I believe is the coffee cup with a DD on it, is that a lit sign?
Has a light.
Please.
Yes, the sign itself is not lit. There's a small light above it that shines back on it, down.
So it's really kind of a decoration more than
it is, yes.
All right, thank you. That's all I have.
Mr. Price?
No questions.
Pardo?
Yeah, I was just curious, the hatched area on the site plan that is west of Popeyes, kind of like an odd-shaped L, lazy L, striped area at the north end of that row of parking. You see that, Jeff?
Yeah, the striped parking island area.
I was just curious if that could be landscaped like the other one.
That'd be this right here.
We had it landscaped. We took that out. The turning radiuses on the site are really tight. Right now, we can get deliveries around to the right of the Popeyes, but we really we knew that trucks coming on, you know, Budweiser deliveries, so on and so forth, if they come up at all, they get hung up on all that curbing. So we ended up trying to decorate the exterior of the site, and we took the landscaping out of that middle one.
Okay. And it says fence to the north, proposed wood fence.
Yes.
Is to the east, there already a fence?
Drop off there.
I don't believe there is.
Concrete drop off.
I mean, that's Red Lobster, right?
That's Red Lobster. I don't believe there is on the east. No.
Should there be?
B2 to B2 doesn't require a buffer of any kind.
Okay. I mean, the issue of the foot candles, that's too hard to know if 2.3 is any worse than 2.
On the foot candle average, there's intensity underneath the canopy. We're at 40 to 55, I think is the range on there. And that's typical installation. We didn't upgrade the wattages on those. Those are LED cutoff fixtures, so you cannot see them from the street. So they shine directly down, and it amps up the average. On the property line, I think we're 0 or in compliance around the perimeter of the site.
I was also just curious, the two entry points on Colerain
Yes.
that are next to each other, is it necessary to have both? Or,
Yes.
I mean, I'm seeing people at Dunkin' Donuts getting their donuts and probably wanting to head south to the southernmost curb cut. And then you're probably going to have people picking up stuff or in the gas station and also wanting to go out that same curb cut. And there might be a bottleneck there, but
This curb comes.
no, this one.
The current site has 5 if you combine the sites. So there's 4 on the gas station parcel, 2 on Springdale, 2 on Colerain. The 2 that are eliminated are the 2 closest to the intersection.
Right.
The one up at the north end on Colerain that I think you're referring to is the one that is currently part of the car quest.
Right.
And that's also one that folks heading southbound on Colerain can get into a lane and turn left into the site on the concrete median as a cut there.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they have to do a traffic study, which is not part of our issues, but, I mean, there will be more consumers on this corner.
Right. In
More
Ohio,
traffic.
ODOT would handle the permitting on that. And Hamilton County, because there's Springdale Road. Springdale Road's a county road, and Colerain is a state road.
So other than that, it's just ironic that you mentioned the main intersection that can be represented by donuts.
Yeah.
I guess.
That's all, thanks.
Okay, Mr. Martin?
I'll pick up on that, actually. I think everybody is pleased.
Donuts and chicken?
On the donuts and chicken, yeah. Everybody is pleased that something's going to happen on this site. On the other hand, as a couple of the township representatives have pointed, this is the most important intersection in the township. And it seems to me that we're kind of bending over backwards to put yet another fast food restaurant on Colerain Avenue. You guys have been very busy. If you Google Gilligan Oil zoning issues, I was pretty busy this afternoon. You've been all over the place. Springfield Township, Blue Ash, all over.
Correct.
And the interesting thing is a lot of those places extracted a whole lot more from you than we're extracting. For example, in Springfield, they got a much smaller building, 4,000 square foot convenience building, where ours is 4,500 square feet. There is no separate building. And frankly, in my opinion, that's the problem with this. That the Popeyes, you're cramming too much stuff, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the zoning ordinance, onto this property. I see traffic issues all over the place, and I can't imagine why other people haven't seen those same traffic issues. In Blue Ash, for example, again, 4,500 square foot building, the same size as ours, but you put everything under one roof. There is no separate building. In Springfield, they extracted brick covers for all of the canopy covers. I don't think that's, at least my reading of your plans don't require that here.
Correct.
They extracted a better facade than I think we're getting. So again, I would hope that perhaps the township people would take a look at what's happening in some of these other townships when you've come in. You are asking for a much more intensive use of this piece of property than in any other locale that I'm familiar with. I'll be happy to be corrected, but I mean, the limited, when I Google you, like I said, it's a good afternoon process. And you've been a busy boy. You've been all over the place. And I guess the other concern I have, and I don't think that legal counsel will dispute me on this fact, I'm not aware of any standard that says we should grant a variance because it will, quote, bring the site closer to compliance. That is not a standard. We are talking about the most important intersection in our township, which is going to be cram-packed. Everybody, you know, I think if you did away with Popeyes, that'd be fine. I can't begrudge you trying to extract the most intensive use out of this property and make the most money out of this property, but it's not correct to say that you will not get a reasonable return without Popeyes. Because if that were the case, you wouldn't have done what you did in Springfield, you wouldn't have done what you did in Blue Ash, and some other, I think there's a couple other townships.
Do you want me to go through a few of those? I mean, I'm not here to prove you
I-
wrong, but you brought it up. I'll share with you what we did in those, because you're asking, you said they extracted more than you think we're giving on this.
Right.
Okay. So
I would just say that if I could, just to give the administration's point of view on this, the purpose of the zoning resolution is not to extract anything. It's to it sets a standard, and there are architectural design guidelines, which we had a conversation about, and in fact improve the facade. It meets all of our standards except for the ones that are up there, and we're talking about what I believe to be non-substantial variances.
Well, except for one, let me give you one that I think is substantial, and that is, again, over in Springfield. It's a smaller building, and you've got 20% green area, or excuse me, 19.2% green area, whereas here you've got a lot less. So again, I mean, we can go back and forth, but and believe me, we should probably just move because the vote will be 4-1. I guarantee you that, and it'll get passed. But you know, again, I'm not doing my job unless I'm pointing out to the community and to the administration that by constantly giving in and saying, well, this is going to be better than what we have, that's not, and especially to get yet another fast food restaurant. We're the fast food king of Hamilton County. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I agree with what the gentleman said. We have to be willing to grant variances where they're justified. But in my mind, and I'm sure I'll lose, there is no justification for cramming all of this activity into this small spot. It's 1.3 acres. We require 1 acre zoning for a business on Colerain Avenue. And you've got 3 businesses going, basically.
correct. And today we have the existing site. We paid are going to pay a lot of money for that additional parcel. So when we go in through our economics, this is what we have to do to make these work. It's why you don't see much redevelopment from other folks doing these things. But the other ones, we had 0.6 acres. We had 2 in Sycamore Township. I don't know if they came up on the Google search as well. Up and down Montgomery Road, one at Kenwood Mall. Same building as Blue Ash.
Where else do you have this configuration with 3? With the pumps, Popeyes?
Yeah, and like I said, the Popeyes had to be a separate building per Popeyes franchise requirements. But we have this at Kings Mill in 71.
Yeah, this configuration.
We have fuel,
amount of acreage?
car wash, Popeyes, Dunkin' Donuts, GoCo. Less land.
Hyde Park.
Madison and Edwards, right at Brookwood, northeast corner. We probably car wash on top of what you have here, 6 pumps. We went to 5 here. We had 6 originally. We reduced it down to 5.
So you're saying the site's not?
The site's substantially bigger, and the reason I've got a lot of Google information is because we're at Corners that Shell had purchased who knows how many years ago, and over the time there's been right-of-way takes and zoning code changes. So we came in and said, look, we can operate what we have today, but look, we're willing to come in, invest substantially in an additional property, thereby enlarging the piece. So today we have 6 pumps, a convenience store, a car wash operating, and a building that doesn't.
You got these people going into the pumps here, then you got these people backing out. You got the people, as somebody pointed out, coming out of Dunkin' Donuts, coming down here, they're backing out. I mean, the police department's here.
Yeah.
Do you really want all those people?
You made
and all those moving parts?
Yes, right. So what we have in there is the turning radiuses. So what we did when we went and talked to ODOT, we probably could have. I'm not going to say we
well,
could
ODOT doesn't have. I'm talking about in the property.
Right as part of the piece. We ended up filling that in with landscaping because we felt like it was going to be a better look when we brought it in here relative to what was going on. It also forced us to move the canopy a little bit further down so we get that curb cut right that comes in off of Colerain, because we want people to come in off
But
of
again,
Colerain, not Springdale.
I'm talking about the traffic flow within the property, not
So then
outside
when
the
you come in the property, there's like 28, 29 feet between the canopy and the parking. There's an additional 26, I think, is the number between the hatched north end of that parking and the other parking. So what we've got is the zoning requirements for every one of these aisleways, and in fact, 2 feet extra where we kind of have the main aisleway where we think there could be, all right, somebody pulling in, pulling out relative to the pumps you're talking about. And really that parking is set up for the Popeyes,
Right.
between the pumps and the Popeyes, and there's parking in front of the convenience store. So all of those meet the code for Colerain Township for all of those aisles. So when, you say cars going in and out of there, they meet the code that's required in those aisles. I can tell you from our experience, we have stores that kind of have narrower aisles that existed, the pre-existing conditions, and they operate not as easily, but they operate fine. These are actually, 3 or 4 feet wider because of the code requirements.
Just to cut to the quick, and I don't want to interrupt you, but I don't want to belabor the point either. In my opinion, just because we're getting closer to compliance, but when we do this project's probably going to be there for the next 25 years. Agreed? So
I can only hope so.
So probably in my lifetime, this corner will not be in compliance ever with zoning. I'll be dead. Most of the people up here will be dead. So we're going to have the most important intersection in Colerain Township out of compliance with the zoning ordinance for the foreseeable future. Point number one. Point number two, is it your position, yes, I guess yes or no, whatever you want to say, that you cannot make this an economically viable site without Popeyes?
There's no way we would do the site without the Popeyes, 100% hands down.
So what
would not happen.
Just leave it the way it is?
We'd leave it the way it is. You can see because of the triangle.
Go ahead.
So the answer is yes.
All right.
We would absolutely not do this project.
Right.
We could not possibly do without the Popeyes. And you can see by the setbacks that are within our current parcel that's zoned properly, in the 50-foot setbacks, there's a very small building area in terms of redevelopment.
Why was Springfield profitable and not this one then?
Which one?
Springfield
doesn't-
Township?
It really doesn't
This
matter.
is not before, Springfield Township, this is.
That site that we did at Tri-County?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that one was an existing site. We didn't add on any other property.
They don't like me either.
No, it's just,
Well, your role and power, you're supposed to consider what is before you.
Yeah,
Now,
I-
Is investigate inside your role and powers? It is not. It's
Yeah.
consider what is presented to you.
Well, if you could point out to me, Mr. Counsel, where it says in the law that brings up closer to compliance is a justification for a variance, I'd be happy to see it. With
No,
that,
I-
I think you said-
Here, to the contrary, the Ohio Supreme Court has held that the Board of Zoning Appeals maintains wide latitude
Absolutely.
in deciding whether to grant or deny a variance.
And I'm exercising that. And I hope
And
the
in
rest-
all
and I hope
fairness,
the
I
rest
like
of
your
the board
questions.
will eventually do so.
I like your questions, and I think you brought up in the previous one.
No, I mean, this is not personal. This is.
No, I don't take it
we should-
personally.
We should
believe
have a
me.
beer afterwards. That's-
In terms of equitable relief,
Right.
we've been there. We take care of our property. We operate well. We're investing a substantial amount of money into this corner.
I understand.
mean, substantial.
Right.
And we're improving every aspect of the condition of this thing by adding on the additional parcel and closing a couple of curb cuts and the way the whole thing's being rebuilt.
But
So
some of
I
the
would
day-
say, from our standpoint, we come in and look at it and say, all right, we don't have to do this project because we're busy doing things, but we think it's a very good one. And so we came in and talked to Jeff, went through what we could do here, what the opportunities are, and it felt like a situation where obviously we're comfortable with it. We're standing here.
But, again, and.
Let's close.
Well, I'd like to
discussion.
have one last comment if I could. Thank you.
One comment.
Well, I'm not going to limit myself to one, but I will self-impose one comment. First of all, I don't think there's any need for the antagonism that I feel from some of the other people in the room, because, again, I'm just trying to do my job, and I think you and I are on the same wavelength. I appreciate your candor. I appreciate your good nature. And I think that the mistake that some people make is they take this personally. And you get various views on this board, and that's what this is all about. And anybody that sees it differently is wrong. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Quick question, timeline
Okay.
we have on this development. What is your timeline on this development?
With a successful vote tonight, and then it gets read in 30 days, we're going to try to start construction July 15th or sooner if we can, but that's kind of keeping the engineers and architects really on the grindstone. Then we'd be open in December.
Okay, thank you. That's my question. All
Trying to
I'll
avoid
ask,
the winter.
No other questions from the board, and we'll ask for a approval or denial of the request for the variances. Public response is closed at this point. So we're at the public response.
It was closed earlier, much earlier.
Public response is closed. I'll ask for a motion to approve or deny the request for the variances that have been listed for this case.
I will make a motion to approve the variances with the staff's recommendation.
Is there a second?
I second the motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. Roll call vote.
Price?
Yes.
Mr. Bartold?
Yes.
Mr. Roberto?
Yes.
Mr. Martin?
No.
Mr. Reininger?
Yes. Thank you. Next case is BZA 2014-06. The variance is for,
I'm gonna have to.
okay, we will have to recuse one of our board members, and we will seat the alternate for this last case. Let the record reflect that Mr. Bartold has been recused, and Mr. Kelly is taking his place for this hearing. All right, to continue. This is for variance for front yard setback, Article section 7.3.1, Table 7.2. Location is 2629 John Gray Road. Applicant is Thomas Dunn. Owner is Michael Berry. Staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The application before the board with this variance is for a covered porch that extends into the front yard setback. The applicant applied for and was denied a zoning certificate for the proposed addition. In our zoning resolution, uncovered porches, which do not extend above 3 feet above the floor level or ground, of the ground floor, uncovered porches can project into the front yard. Open, unenclosed porches may also project into the front yard for a distance not exceeding 10 feet. However, this is a covered porch, and because the proposed porch is covered, it's governed by section 12.3.1, which says that every part of the required yard has to be, they say, open to the sky and unobstructed. That's the language from the resolution. So as I went through and did my analysis, I was looking for the things that we've been talking about tonight. I was looking for some sort of unique aspect of the property that would warrant a deviation from the zoning resolution. And as I looked at the property, as we can see on this aerial map, it's a very square property. It's located in the northernmost part of Colerain Township. In fact, across the street is a different municipality. All of the properties in the 2600 block of John Gray, and most of the properties, as we can see from the map here, in the immediate area, sit about 35 feet from the right of way. So I was having a very difficult time coming up with a way to justify this variance. Uh-oh, I missed all my, hang on just. Thanks. Okay, so the staff findings on this case are that all the buildings on the 2600 block of John Gray are set back approximately 35 feet from the right of way. No other properties on this block have covered porches that extend into the front yard setback. The proposed addition would be contrary to the purpose of Article 7 of the zoning resolution, listed in Section 7.1.1a. There's no unique practical difficulty that sets this property apart from its neighboring properties. The practical difficulty alleged by the applicant could feasibly be obviated by other means. The variance would not adversely affect the delivery of governmental services. The neighborhood is currently characterized by homes built to a similar setback without covered porches extending into the front yard. The proposed addition would change that established character of the neighborhood. And by taking into consideration the benefit to the applicant, if the variance is granted, weighed against the detriment to the health, safety, and welfare of the neighborhood and broader community, staff finds that substantial justice will be done by denying this variance. So my recommendation for this one is to deny.
Thank you. Is the applicant here?
I'm Tom Dunn. I'm a principal with the firm of Dunn and Titus Architects, 800 Compton Road. We have looked at this from the standpoint of what can...
Mr. Dunn, were you sworn in? Were you sworn in? Were you sworn in?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Go ahead, proceed.
We looked at this from both a practical standpoint and even an aesthetic standpoint. While we realize that all of the houses on that line are actually on the line, we feel that by adding a very modest porch to the front of it really enhances the appearance of the house, and we would not be at all opposed to anyone else doing something similar. Yes, it puts it a little bit closer to the line, the right-of-way, but on the other hand, it creates a lot of architectural interest. Most of the houses, if you look along that, and I'm sure you've driven by there, it's rather bland looking. So we feel that the aesthetic effects are just as appropriate as the practical things. As it stands now, without any kind of covering over that, you can't greet guests. They have to stand in the rain. With this recent snow we've had, snowy season, it's been very difficult. One time the door froze and they couldn't get out that way at all. Yeah, a lot of problems with that. The children can't wait for a school bus outside because there's no porch covering. I think some of the research that was done with some of the neighbors, no one really objected to this. If anything, it's enhancing the neighborhood rather than being a detrimental issue. So we felt that it had several things going for it, and yeah, it's a variance, and it obviously violates currently some of the restrictions on the zoning. But on the other hand, I think the benefits far outweigh the detrimental things that might happen with it. I'd like to call on Brad Jones, if I might. He's the current tenant at the building, and he's the one that he's a contractor and doing the construction and so forth, and would have some comments on that also.
Okay. Is Mr. Jones here? No. Were you sworn in, Mr. Jones?
Yes.
Okay, proceed.
My name's Brad Jones. It's 2629 John Gray Road. As Tom has stated, we're going to try to enhance the look of the house, and we have a few things there where the wind's coming from the northwest. A lot of times the rain's coming in, snow's coming in. If you open the front door, the rain comes in the house. There's ice that formed around the weather stripping. I couldn't get out of the house. I had to go around the back door and actually come in and with my foot and kick the door open to get it to open inside the house. It rains, it drips down the door, you open the door, it goes in, there's rain all over the floor. When Tom was coming over one day to meet me to go over some drawings, he was standing in the sleet until I came out. It's just one of those things where people stand there coming out, you're standing right in the rain, right in the snow, sleet, whatever. We have no protection whatsoever there. I have a lot of packages being delivered from UPS, Federal Express, because I order things for clients when I'm doing a remodel, and they just sit there in the weather as well. There's no garage on the house. There's no rear porch. There's nowhere to put any packages or get out of the weather. You can't go outside the house without being in the weather, whether it's the front or the back.
Thank you. I'm going to enter into record that your comments for right now.
I did have some pictures that I took.
We've got, let's get this submittal done first. This is a submittal by the architect that illustrates the house and the modification in front of it. I'm going to share that with the board, and you have some other photographs.
I do.
Okay. And we have four other photographs of different porch configurations. And I'll share those with the board. Okay. Go ahead.
The house we're submitting this for faces John Gray Road, and that's just the one block between Pippin and Westerly there. And the subdivision that runs behind, which my backyard backs up to all the houses, is Westerly, Spalding, Wincanton, and I drove through there. I drive through all the time, and I've counted at least 15 houses back in that subdivision that have front porches on them that protrude from the house. There's some other houses back there that the roof extends down because it was built that way originally, and it overhangs a little bit. But that doesn't include the 15 or so that actually has either a metal porch, which is kind of a generic little aluminum roof or steel roof. And there's a few that has the actual porch roof built out, as you can see in the pictures. And I know that Jeff had mentioned that there wasn't any houses in that block or in that area that had front porches, but there were several in that subdivision right behind me, between John Gray and Kemper Road. So there's, you know, a substantial amount of houses that already have front porches on them. That is what I'm trying to do. Okay.
We continue to talk about this site, not
Okay.
everybody else's site, something.
Right, I was making a comment because of I understand that.
Very good. Anybody, okay, thank you. Anybody else to speak for or against this? I will ask for a motion to close the public input.
So moved.
Motion's been made to close public input.
Second.
And seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Roberto,
I really don't have any questions.
Mr. Price?
Yeah, Mr. Berry, it looks from the plans that were submitted, or Mr. Dunn, whoever wants to answer, that there's an existing slab there now?
Yeah, that's an existing slab that's currently there, yes.
Is that going to be expanded?
Basically, we're building over the top of that. We're setting out some new piers for the new columns. There'll be Doric kind of, or Ionic type decorative columns, and then the porch will existing. There's a slight porch there that's now, that I think shows on that photograph, comes out maybe a foot, still within the zoning line, however, and we're simply extending that out, that same plane, and then picking up the columns on the outside of that.
And how far are you extending it out again?
10 feet.
I mean, is it possible just to extend it out, you know, where it would meet code? No, not go the full 10 feet?
Well, I think the line, if I'm not mistaken, is very close to the front of the house, and about 18 inches, I think, which is unfortunate. It's my understanding that the zoning was set later, that was set probably because they were all on a line to begin with. Looking at that back in the 60s, they probably built that, you know, as a kind of a minimal thing, and then when the zoning picked it up, they said, well, let's make the front line there. I mean, I'm speculating that.
That's all the questions I had.
Okay, Mr. Kelly?
No questions.
Mr. Martin?
I guess I should direct this to Jeff. As I read the zoning ordinance, I think you got to read it the way it's intended. 12.3.2 talks about uncovered porches. 12.3.3 talks about open, unenclosed porches. Don't you have to read those? I mean, they talk about two different things. So it seems to me that what he's talking about is an open, unenclosed porch. And therefore, no variance is needed. And he can just go ahead and do that. You have to differentiate between an uncovered porch and an open, unenclosed porch.
What's the relationship between an open, unenclosed porch and a paved terrace? Why would they be included in the same?
Well, an open, unenclosed porch basically means that you have a roof over it, but the sides are not enclosed. Same thing with a terrace versus an uncovered porch. I mean, if it was supposed, if an open, unenclosed porch is meaning an uncovered porch, they would have said it. They differentiated between the two.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think, I think he can go ahead and do whatever he wants to do without a variance.
If I might say something, we were puzzled with that part of the code also. We never could get a real definition of it. You maybe have helped to define it a little bit.
I don't see, you have to read it that way, I think.
I mean, I have no problem with that. As I was interpreting it, it was lumping a paved terrace, which in my mind is a patio-ish thing, you know, a paved terrace. It's lumping the paved terrace with the open, unenclosed porch. Now, here's something that could happen. You, the applicant, could ask for an interpretation of what open, unenclosed porch means from the Board of Zoning Appeals, and they can provide an interpretation. I've given my interpretation, and you guys can give yours. And to be honest with you, I think that an open, unenclosed porch that would include a roof that extends 10 feet into the setback would not be a bad thing for many, if not most, neighborhoods. So one way that we could pursue this is you could ask for an interpretation from the board. There could be a board vote. That would make my job a lot easier, because then in the future, that's the interpretation of the Board of Zoning Appeals.
I'm happy to make that motion, because I think you have to take the ordinance on its face value, and they clearly differentiate between the two. So I would say that we should interpret it that way, and therefore you don't need a variance, and you can go ahead and do what you want to do. I'll so move.
Okay. We have a motion to define, what's the numbers,
12.3.2 and 12.3.3.
To a covered
An open, enclosed
porch.
Oh, excuse me, an open, unenclosed porch
Can't have a cover.
is,
And
yes,
be within.
and be within, yeah. So that would be a very valid exercise of the Board of Zoning Appeals powers.
All right.
I guess, but my question to that then is, there going to be, I mean, what's to stop somebody from putting a 30-foot porch on the front of their house?
It's limits it to 10.
So limit it to 10 feet.
Yeah, which is good.
So I will second that motion as well.
Very good.
So
I might win one.
the motion in front, motion in front of the board is to really define a part of the BZ.
It would be, the Board of Zoning Appeals has been asked for an interpretation of a particular undefined term in our zoning resolution.
So
the motion would be to interpret that term
which
in the way
negates
that,
need for the variance.
yes.
Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded. An affirmative vote will provide the clarification and will negate the need for the variance, so we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote.
Very good. Mr. Price?
Aye.
Mr. Bartol? Oh, excuse me. Mr. Kelly?
Kelly.
Sorry, Mr.
Aye.
Kelly. Mr. Roberto?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Reininger?
Aye. Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Let me ask council, can we, does the board have the authority to refund this $125?
I think that would, I was actually wondering that myself. I would,
It's certainly unprecedented. I'll have to.
I will ask, I'll make a formal request that council give us an opinion on that, and if so, if that needs a motion, I will happy to make a motion.
I believe that there is a fee for an interpretation, and I would hate to see.
Well, then how about if I just make a motion that we refund the $125?
Not sure. I mean, you can make that motion, but I'm not sure whether that's enforceable or not. Look,
Let that be an administrative decision to work out.
Yes, I understand your
the
intention,
funding.
Mr. Martin.
And if it can be done, we can
Sure.
do it.
Yes.
But without a motion.
I didn't want to win every motion tonight, so I just wanted to put that on the table.
All right,
Very
so we're
good.
going to move on to our agenda. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
We have
guys.
no
Yeah.
resolutions for adoption.
Nope. Last month we had a
We had
a month off.
a little lighter. No unfinished business. We have the minutes were submitted, and I've misplaced mine, but minutes from last March 26th meeting are pretty succinct and quick to read. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as they're written.
Second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Administrative matters? I have none.
The only thing I have is what we discussed before the meeting, and we should probably have a motion to change the start time on May 28th from 7 o'clock to 6 o'clock to accommodate the lengthy docket.
Okay.
Make a motion to change the meeting time for next meeting to 6 o'clock.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, something else to consider, if this thing gets to be a marathon, because the number of cases, we may wind up splitting and after 2.5 hours, reset, finish the next however many appeals are left.
And the only issue with that is there's statutory limits on the time that a person has to be heard in their appeal. So I would need to make sure that we don't go over those timelines. But I think if we did it like the next day or something,
Yeah,
we would
I'm
be.
thinking the next day, just,
Yeah, okay.
Jeff, how many out of these 11 are you anticipating to be touchy?
They're all going to be touchy.
Awesome.
So do you anticipate?
One of them is for a massage parlor, so that one's definitely going to be touchy.
Do you want to put a cutoff time then, as far as like 11 o'clock? Is it when we would? That way, the people would be aware when the cutoff would be.
yeah, I mean,
I'm uncomfortable with that, quite honestly. I think that really inhibits people's option to speak.
That's why I'm bringing it up.
And I think, just like Sometimes trustees' meetings run over, sometimes school board meetings run over. I've been on all these boards. I've met till 3 in the morning sometimes, and if that's the case, and there's certainly enough weeks or months when we're out of here at 7:30 that I think all of us can gird our belts a little bit and stay as late as possible.
Well, my only concern would be the attention and the credence given to each appeal should be pretty consistent and uniform, and after 5 or 6 hours, people's attention starts to lag. I know if we start at 6 and we're still at 11 o'clock, we're still at it. I would think people that are left are going to, the appeals left are going to get short shrift. Now, I may be wrong, but 5.5, 6 hours, because most all of us have been at some task for at least another prior 12 hours. So we're going to get to the end of our ability to think critically,
And
perhaps.
not to be critical of you, Mr. Martin, but you tend to be lengthy in your discussions, so that it tends to take it on to 3 o'clock in the
And
morning.
not to be critical of the rest of the board, they tend to be a little too brief.
I know.
Let's keep that option open.
Yeah.
I wish I hadn't said that on the record.
5 hours.
Mr. Roberto.
I'm just joking.
Well, given what I said earlier, I think maybe now I would formally ask you to talk to the rest of the board about interaction with other board members and maybe with the staff as well. Thank you.
Administrative matters,
I know.
adjournment, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Anybody second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Done.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. See you on the 28th at 6 o'clock.